Hey there guys, Alex from Mental Health Thinking here. I'm a provisional psychologist and all the things I say in all of these videos are things that I tell clients. This video is about addiction. It's about the strategies that you can use on a practical level to stop addiction, how it develops, and really just a bit of information about it. So the first thing that I need to mention is that it can actually be occasionally unsafe to stop certain types of drugs when you've been taking a lot for a long time. So if you tell the GP how much you've been having, how often, whether you've had any days off, all those sorts of things, and they'll ask you those questions, then they can give you some good advice about whether it's okay to stop all at once. They might be able to help you with some sort of medication. Now you can even do an in-stay detox, and you can get a referral by speaking to your GP once more. If you're at the stage right now where you're just thinking about maybe stopping or maybe cutting down or something like that, you're coming up with, say, some problems with your health, maybe your doctor's told you that you have high blood pressure or that you have problems with your liver. Maybe people in your life have told you that they think you've got a bit of a problem. Maybe you've missed some days at work. These are all different reasons that people can have as a bit of alarm bells to say, maybe I'm no longer a casual user, maybe I'm actually addicted right now. If you were talking to a psychologist, then what we'd be doing is talking to you about the types of things that motivate you and really getting you to remind yourself of those. It could be writing some of the reasons down and putting it in your wallet and just keeping that around so that you can really be robust about that. It's the first stage to getting you over that threshold where you can then actually start looking at action and what you might actually do to stop. Motivation is something that has to keep on coming up throughout the process of quitting, because when we engage with stopping addiction, then our brain it'll work against us to try to get back to that easy path of continuing the process of what we were doing. There's lots of different reasons for that, and I'll go through them. But the point here is just be really clear on your reasons for stopping. Write them down. Make sure that you absolutely have them in the forefront. So if you're thinking about something else and maybe you're coming up with excuses to do it, then you can keep on reminding yourself of why you want to stop. The next point is addiction doesn't happen in a vacuum. This is the first time that I've linked to an external video, but it's fantastic. This one goes through this old idea of addiction is that anybody, if they take an addictive substance, then they will become addicted. But what we know now is that that's not quite what happens. A lot of people can be exposed to highly addictive drugs, highly addictive medications and things like that, and not become addicted, not have any desire to become addicted. And it's because addiction is a replacement generally for something. Maybe you don't have bonding in your life. Maybe you don't have a lot going on in your life at all. Maybe you're overwhelmed and you're using whatever the substance is to relax or to escape. There has to be something to escape from for that to be a function. So the point is really going through your life as it is and just figuring out what do you get from actually taking the drug and what sorts of things, if you stop taking it, you would actually miss out on. And if you really kind of got your mind on quitting, then it might think, well, why would I think about these things? The fact is you think about these things to come up with different things to serve those functions. So if your fun and social activity comes from drinking on the weekend, right? And you're binge drinking and you're doing it to excess, there's good health reasons and whatnot to stop. Maybe you're having problems with work, maybe motivation, maybe you're getting fat, anything like that. There are lots of different reasons to quit, but there are also those functions, those important functions, that social and fun that you're getting from drinking. And if you just stop drinking and then you don't have that fun and social activity anymore, what are you going to want to do? What you have to do is find other things to replace that function. Find other things to fulfill it. So that might mean looking at different hobbies. It might mean making some friends outside of the circle of addiction, outside of that circle of, in this case, binge drinking or whatever it is. Making friends related to a hobby or related to this or that. It might be joining a club, whatever it is to you, and you can think about it for yourself, what you would like to do, what you would be willing to do. But once you figure out those functions, once you figure out those things that you're getting from the substance, then you've got to fulfill those. Now, if you're really trying to escape your life because maybe it's overwhelming or maybe you're depressed or down, then you've got to serve those needs as well. And you've got to write what's going on in your life. Now, it's not to get back to where you were, it's to get to a new and hopefully better place. Now, it might mean going and seeing a psychologist for depression, if that's what's going on. Or grief counselling. Often people can, through grieving, end up stepping up their intake of various substances and become addicted because it's a coping mechanism and an escape. Maybe there's previous trauma. I've got a video on previous traumas that you can have a bit of a look at. Maybe something like that's going on, because those sorts of things can lead to addiction. If you can resolve those as well, then you're much more likely to be on the long term to not only continue to successfully stop taking whatever it is and becoming addicted, but also enjoy your life far more. Most drugs that we take recreationally, they will increase dopamine, and they do it artificially. Now, dopamine in the body is reward. If something happens that's less than expected, then we will get a suppression of dopamine. So from that level, whatever it is, it'll be suppressed and we'll have less. And that suppression is felt as, that really sucked. Maybe you lost a game you thought you'd win. Maybe you thought you were going to get a job and you didn't get it. Whatever it is, you can feel that suppression. If something is better than expected, you'll actually have that feeling of euphoria, that feeling of, oh yeah, that's good. I just achieved something. And that's what it's meant to do, is it's meant to be based on some sort of achievement or something fantastic happening. With those drugs, is it spikes the dopamine and it increases the amount artificially. When I say artificially, it's not because of some better than expectations reaction. So it tells your body, this is better than expectations. Now, this is a problem when you've been taking drugs for a long period of time, because if you take a drug that massively increases the amount of dopamine artificially, then that compared to some real better than expectations event is much more powerful. If you're every weekend going and taking large amounts of, say, methamphetamine, especially if you're doing it on a more daily basis, then nothing's going to seem as good as that, because you're reducing your sensitivity to get that natural reward when something good happens. You have to actually be off that drug for quite a bit of time before you can start feeling, I'm spotting different things in my life that are actually good. As well as that, when you're around triggers in the environment, so things that you normally see and associate with taking the drug, your brain actually reverses your brain chemistry to be the opposite of what that drug does. It's part of the reason why we become less sensitive to the drug over time. So let's say that you drink pretty often and you always do it when you're at a party or at the pub. So there's lots of different smells in the environment, there's sights, there's a certain lighting that you associate then, or that your body associates with taking the drug. So when you see those, you feel opposite of drunk, which doesn't feel very good. And what that does is make you crave it even stronger. But really, what your body is trying to do is it's thinking, he's just about to pour this poison in me right now. I want to maintain normality. I'm going to reverse what I expect to happen. Now, this phenomenon is really important for my next point, which is managing risky situations. And what that means is thinking about times when you're more likely to crave, times when it's going to be risky for you in terms of going back to the substance. So if you're a drinker and you always do it at the pub, going to the pub, that's a really risky place to be. If you usually use whatever substance and you're around certain people, that's going to be a risky situation, being around those people. And you can really break down your environment and come up with a hierarchy of the most difficult situations to some of the easier ones, and to put them in order. The reason for that is you can get an idea then for what you actually can handle at different stages. At the start, when you first decide to cease whatever you're doing, then that's when you haven't practiced your self-control to actually stop it, and you've got heavy cravings that are going on in your body. So that's when it's most risky, and probably some of those high-level risky situations are to be avoided at that time. You've just got to be honest with yourself and think, if I go and do that, what am I likely to do? And if the answer is, I'll probably end up drinking or taking the drug, and I don't want to do that, well, avoid that situation. And then you can review that. You can keep on reviewing it over the time, and you should be able to manage more and more situations. What you've got to do as well as that is figure out strategies for all of those different risky situations. Now, really be thorough with this, because those situations are likely to come up. Some of these things are unavoidable, and you've got to figure out, okay, what do I need to do in order to manage that situation and decrease my chances? Now, it might mean that in some way you change the situation. You bring someone with you, or you drink a lot of water so that your stomach's full and you don't really feel the need to go and drink something. There are many different things that you can come up with, and it's all individualized. If you're working alongside a mental health professional, then you can come up with different strategies alongside with them that you can use then to deal with those situations. What you can also do is limit your access to the drug. So the harder it is to get a hold of the drug, the less willpower you need. So if you've got a beer sitting right in front of you on a table and you're trying to stop drinking, you're pretty likely to drink that. If you have one in the fridge, that's also pretty risky. But what if you had to go to the bottle shop? What if you actually didn't even have any money in your bank, so you would have to go and borrow money in order to go and buy the drug? That decreases the amount of willpower they need in that first place, and increases their chances of actually being successful and not taking the drug. So I talked earlier about motivation and really being clear on the reasons for stopping, so that when your thoughts start really working against you, you can still be clear on it by reminding yourself, maybe you've got it written down on a piece of paper, the reasons. The type of thoughts to look out for are these. You can have catastrophic thoughts like, I need it, or something awful is going to happen if I don't get it, really increasing the importance of it. And then you can think, well, all right, well, let's just check with someone whether that's actually true. You can have bargaining thoughts like, you deserve it. You know, let's say that you're trying to cut down drinking. Oh, you've had a really productive day, or for the last 3 days you haven't drunk, so you can have a drink tonight. The really important thing is that you decided that you didn't want to drink. You have still decided that. And you can think of that as, would I like to have drunk? And if the answer is no, you don't want to drink. And be true to yourself then. Remind yourself of those reasons why you want to stay sober for that time, and choose to do the right thing for yourself. You might also think, yeah, I'll just have one, that'll be fine. And look, if that was true, then that might just be fine. But you've got to think, if you have one, are you then entering one of those risky situations that I talked about, where you're really likely to have another? What you can do is think about that before the event. So when you're not actually craving, when you're just in the day or something like that, maybe if you've got a psychologist or a mental health professional that you're talking to, talk to them about how you might manage the situation, whether having just one would be a good idea and whether you'd be able to handle it. Surfing cravings. Okay, so cravings can seem catastrophic. They can seem so strong that we just cannot handle them, and they might seem like they're gonna last forever. The fact is, cravings, depending on the drug, but cravings often will actually only last a certain amount of time. Maybe they last about 15 minutes. What you can do is surf the craving through. And there's different things that you can do. So if it's alcohol that you're craving, oftentimes you'll crave it partly because of thirst. Quench that thirst, drink some water. Even if it's some other substance, that's a good distractor. Drink some water, eat some food, change whatever routine it is that led you to crave in the first place. Maybe you normally have something around breakfast time and you don't have breakfast, have breakfast. Go out and do something fun. Talk to a friend. It doesn't have to be about the drug, just have a chat. Any of these different delaying activities, these are really important to get through that craving because cravings are temporary. If you're in a risky situation, it might be a good idea to actually leave. If you're at a party and you're really craving and you're thinking, oh, I really want some right now, make a decision for yourself. If it's really important for you to stop, maybe it's more important than the party. And maybe it's a good idea to just leave, just go home then. And if you're not sure you want to leave, maybe just go to your car, sit in the driver's seat, put the key in the ignition and then make your decision. So it's actually an easier decision to make. If you've got that pressure and you're still at the party, you probably won't leave. But if you just think, okay, hold on, I can go and sit in my car and then figure it out. Go and sit there, put the key in the ignition and then think, do I really want to go back in there? Can I handle that? Or do I just want to turn this key right now? Make it convenient. And then you might just leave. And that would probably save you from a lapse or a relapse. Talking about a lapse and a relapse, relapse is going back to the whole usage pattern that you used to have in the past, and a lapse is just maybe having a drink or going back and using once or something like that. So they're just words that we often use in the biz. So if you're making the decision to either stop or cut down, it's unlikely that you'd be able to just cut down and more likely that you'd be able to completely stop. With people, because it's their decision, whatever they decide to do, if they come in and they want to cut down, I'll go with it and I'll try to support them the best I can to do that. What I'll usually do is suggest doing it as an experiment. So do it for a while, try cutting down and then review it in a given amount of time and then see whether that's been effective. Maybe it is, and maybe that's fine. And I'll give them all the strategies under the sun that I've talked about today. But if you do that experiment for yourself and you find that it hasn't been effective, you haven't been able to stop because one drink leads to another, or once you use, you're in that situation, you're going to keep on doing it, then what you can do is actually then make the decision, be honest with yourself and think, okay, I probably need to stop completely in order to do this because that is the easier route. Okay guys, that's my video on addiction. I hope it's been really helpful for people. I'm currently working in alcohol and other drugs and I'll be giving this to my clients there. It's all of the strategies that somebody can support you with along the way. And it's important to realize that these supportive people, these mental health professionals, are actually out there for you.